This is, in a way, a tie-in or a follow-on from Peter Millard's recent video where he's talked about the same hinge that we use and gone back to basics about how to use it and how to fit it. So I thought if you'd seen that or if you haven't seen that, you might be quite interested in how we use those hinges. I think particularly because we use the inset variation in a slightly non-standard way. Now I've put both of them on a door here just to help you visualize what they look like. You would never use both on the same door, but it shows you quite clearly the difference. So that is your typical straight arm overlay hinge, which when mounted on what's called a zero height mounting plate, a standard mounting plate, will make the door overlap the carcass by typically about 16 millimeters. Then there's adjustment either way. So that's what's been used here. The inset hinge is fitted in much the same way. So that's the inset hinge there. So the door drilling is just the same, but because of the crank, you can also call it a cranked hinge or a fully overlapping or fully inset hinge, because you can get a half overlap as well. That one places the door sort of set within the inner face of the carcass side. And that's the type of hinge that we've used on all these doors here, because it throws the door inwards, which makes it then easier to fit a cover strip because you reveal the edge of the carcass. Now the thing that we do that's maybe a little non-standard, I mean I'm sure plenty of people do it, but it's not necessarily the obvious use of the hinge, is that the hinge is still placing the door forward of the carcass. I'm going to spin this round so I can show you better. Yeah, so the hinge is still fitted at the standard, that's the 37 millimeter setback. In this case we've used Euro screws in the 5 millimeter holes. So with it not being set further into the carcass, the door is still going to, in its closing position, have its back edge just flush to the front of the unit. Which then means, of course, when you put your cover strips on, those cover strips can fall flush. Now this is a method that we've, through trial and error, settled on, mainly with our alcove cabinets. So the construction of the units here is very much the same as alcove cabinets in terms of the gaps to the wall and in terms of the cover strip arrangement where you've got your exposed side panel. So what you have is you've got the side panel of the unit itself, which the door is hinged off. You see the hinges there. We then put a spacer, also 18 millimeters, and a finished pre-painted cover panel. We design around the inset hinge throwing the door 4 millimeters in from the inner face. We then assume a 2 millimeter overlap with the cover strip. So the cover strip ends up fitted flush to this side, overlaps 2 millimeters, and then you have a 2 millimeter gap. Now there's some tweaking of door gaps to be done. So that gives a nice solid look at those edges there, which makes it look that little bit more traditional and a little bit more high quality than simple overlay doors with no side panels or perhaps just an 18 millimeter side panel. It also makes the scribes to the wall quite easy because you can just fit the scribe to the exposed edge of carcass, and we don't necessarily always put this extra support strip, although we have done in this case. Now, part of the driver behind deciding to do things that way was when we first were making cabinets, we were painting everything, including the internals, and started to get feedback from a lot of customers that they really weren't too bothered if the internals were painted. So we standardized our pricing as being unpainted, with the option of people upgrading to painted on the inside. We pretty much always offer painted on the outside, but what the inset hinge method means is that you can fully conceal the carcass, because in some cases, when you're using overlay hinges, sometimes that edge just becomes a bit too visible. There's different ways of concealing it, and we do tend these days to use what I call overlay scribes, or scribes that will fit flush to the door, rather than the slightly easier method of them being set back. but that would definitely reveal a brown line. So we've mixed the methods a little bit here. We mainly just didn't use the inset hinges because it was frankly easier to run all the doors side by side without another spacer strip here, which you would need if you were using the inset hinges. So that's our method. Just dropping this bit in after watching that video back. What I didn't say is that one of the big reasons we use this method is that we moved away from trimming doors to fit within a frame. So our alcove units used to be traditionally made, we'd make a rigid jointed face frame and the doors would be fitted within that prior to painting. What we do now is we make the doors to a precise size and as square as possible, very square these days because we get them CNC manufactured. We fit them, and just to give us a little bit of play in case something's not quite right, the face frame, it's not a true face frame. So we have these cover strips which we fit after the door. There is that traditionalist part of me that thinks, I suppose it's cheating a little bit, or it's not proper joinery, because a lot of these strips, they're fitted with very modern techniques using gap filling adhesive, also using dominoes, and so they're not strictly joined to each other where they meet in the same way that you would traditionally join. But then I don't know how you could get this effect by doing that. It'd be very difficult to have like a one-piece frame. I think the important thing is just to make, however you fix them, just to do it well and to make it solid. So this piece that just sticks down from there and has been fitted at the end, it's very solid. We strengthened it with some support blocks there, but it is dominoed into the lip there, and there's really no movement on it. The method allows us to get a particularly high level of finish on the doors as well, because we're not trimming doors into the frame. They can be pre-finished with these very smoothly rounded arises that we do and a very fine sprayed finish, which would be, well, a lot more work to achieve if you were fitting a frame, trimming doors to it, and then having to paint after. So we do have a third type of hinge, which we're using on this job, which is the post hinge, as I know it. I think it has another name. And this is probably about the third most used hinge that we use. We use a lot of the other two types, but every now and then there's a situation like this where perhaps you've got a corner unit and that hinge needs to mount onto a panel which is in line with the door in the closed position. So when it's closed, it's like that, and then that springs out and round, as you can see when it opens. Still the Blum range, still the integrated soft close, or Blue Motion as they call it. Once a job like this is near enough finished, I do like to go around and tweak all the hinges, get the adjustment just right. So let's look for some examples of what I'd normally want to do. Okay, over here we've got the door projecting a little bit from the frame, well, the cover strip really. Now my preference is to tweak that back to flush. Now if you were using some rubber buffers, this is how you bring it back, by the way, that way. If you're using rubber buffers, they would set the closing side 2 or 3 millimeters off the frame, because they would have that thickness. And to fit everything just right, you'd really want the hinge side to have that sort of a gap there as well. That's pretty much the standard. But my preference is to bring this in quite close, so that when it closes, the whole door is laying flat to the carcass, because then it sits flush with the scribe strips. Another adjustment to make is making sure that the doors are in line. So if you look at this one, that gap's pretty much parallel to the top, good enough. That one you can see the left door is up, and there's ever so slight of a taper, the gap getting bigger to the left. So a couple of things I would try there It may need to come down a little bit, which would be a case of loosening these screws in the slotted hole, taking them all off and just tapping it down a little bit, retightening. But I may also want to adjust the twist on the door, because if I can just twist it a bit like that, then these corners will meet more where they need to be. Of course, if I do that, this gap will get tighter than it should be. So I wouldn't want to kick this hinge out, I'd want to kick this hinge back that way. You have to think very three-dimensionally because everything has a knock-on effect. You've got to then think about the other gap that you're working with. So if I just turn this one clockwise, that's going to push that back and have the result of bringing that down a little bit. Needs a bit more. I'd need two hands really, but you get the idea. The other thing that I'm watching for is, because I don't have the buffers, it's just a choice that we made to have them sit flush and not stop on buffers. It sounds better when they close if top and bottom are both touching at the same time. Right, so this one, that's just showing me that that's maybe half a mil off the carcass when that has stopped tight against it. So I'd want to then go back to my front to back adjustment and just tweak that so it's going to pull it in ever so slightly more. See, that's closing very nicely. Maybe needs a touch more, and it might be that I actually just need to, because I was getting to the limit of the adjustment, I might need to bring that one just a little bit out so that they both touch right at the same time. So you see, I'm quite particular about this, but I think it all adds to the feel of the finished furniture. And I'm showing it you really just to demonstrate how the hinges adjust and what they allow you to do. Really the same process with this. This is the inset hinge, but it's all the same. So you've got your front and back, moving your door off the carcass or closer to it. You've got your side to side really, so moving it this way, which will be changing your gaps. Changing your gaps here and there. And you've got your up and down. Now this is the Euro type screw, but same principle, you'd loosen them right off and you could just nudge it up and down and retighten. And then a combination of these with the other ones on the door to tweak your rotation and your 3D movement. So you get the hang of it as you work with it. The post hinge is a little bit trickier, but it does work on the same process, the same methods. But because the hinge arm is mounted in a different orientation to the door, the way things move will be different, but you get the hang of it. Something that can catch you out on the post hinge is that the setback from the carcass edge, from here to the drilling position, is 21 millimeters, not the standard 37 millimeters. Well, I hope that's added to your knowledge of hinges, or if you knew it all already, I suppose it's always interesting to see hinges used in a different application. So if it's given you any ideas, then do give me feedback. Do subscribe if you haven't already. And if my content is helping you and your business, then do consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/freebird. Thanks for watching. See you next time.